everyone. Why not?
Okay. My name is Kira. I am a voice actress from Los Angeles, California. I voice a lot of roles in anime, such as Blue Exorcist, where I play Izumo, Magi, where I play Kogyoku, Excel World, where I play Kuryuki Hime, and Blood Lad, where I play Hydra Bell. I'm also in video games such as Hiyoko Sayonji and Danganronpa 2, Maria and Skullgirls, Honoka and Dead or Alive 5, Artemia and Bravely Default, and some others.
Okay. So I guess we do it ourselves, right?
Now, you're originally from, was it Alaska?
Yes.
Now, how is like the weather down here compared to being up in Alaska? Are you used to the much warmer temperatures down here?
Well, moving to California was kind of hard at first because of that. I'd visited there in the past, so I knew what to expect, but it's definitely around this time of year it gets very hot. I'm not really a fan of that.
It can get pretty cold around here, though.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard in New Jersey you guys have more extremes, like the winters get really cold and then the summers were really hot, as we all saw yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, given the fact that, like I said, you come from the West Coast, I mean, I'm guessing traveling, it's kind of hard to get adjusted to, like you said, like all the different weather and all that stuff, right? So I'm guessing not only that, but also like sleep cycles must be kind of wacky too, given the fact that like in your profession and all that, you got to be available almost at any time for like auditions and all that. I'm assuming, correct?
Well, yeah, Alaska's only 1 hour behind California, so that's not really much of a change. I mean, here it's 3 hours later than California, so of course that takes a little getting used to, but I feel like usually when you're flying and whatnot, your sleep schedule gets all messed up anyway, and that's what caffeine is for.
Hi, I'm Vicky from Fangirl Review.
Hi.
Hi. So the question is, between being a voice actress for video games versus anime versus TV shows, which one is your favorite?
Well, I like doing everything, but I think video games would have to be my favorite because I'm a gamer and I just love like the interactive experience that a video game provides. The other thing is that with anime it can be kind of hard because you're completely restricted by the timing to the original performance in Japanese, and sometimes you are for video games as well, but usually it is a little less strict because even if you have to keep the same time as the line, you don't have to sync it up with the pictures. So yeah, I mean, I would say video games. I would love to be in a fighting game. I finally got to do that with Honoka from Dead or Alive last round, who I'm cosplaying as today, but hopefully I get to do more in the future.
Awesome.
Okay. Hi, I'm Sean Singleton, the Japanimaniac, representing the Outer Haven. My question would be for you, how did you get into voice acting? Was it an inspiration for you, and how did you go about it? Did you receive formal training for it? Or did you like slowly build yourself up?
I started just being interested in things like anime and video games and kind of realizing one day that people do the voices for those things, and I really wanted to do it, but I didn't know how. And then a friend at the time introduced me to some websites online where people do voice acting as a hobby and can try out for different projects like flash animations, indie games, things like that. So I signed up for that site and tried out for a whole bunch of stuff, and I wasn't really good when I first started, so I did take some acting classes and whatnot after, and then I practiced some more, ended up winning a contest at Anime Expo 2007, and that kind of like got my foot in the door with a company that I still work with a lot to this day. So, but I had to move to California before I could start voice acting as any sort of profession, because most of the time you just have to be where the work is.
Ari Rockefeller for AnimeJamSession.com. Earlier. I know a lot of voice actors say like they have like, a laundry list of roles they wanted but didn't actually get. Do you have a bunch of roles, like any kind of role that you were really hoping to get but didn't end up going to someone else?
Oh, all the time. I mean, a lot of times it's just for franchises. Like, I'd love to be in League of Legends because I don't personally play it, a lot of my friends do, and they get really involved in the characters and know all their lines and everything, and so that's, an example of something I auditioned for a whole bunch of times but never booked anything, and it would be fun.
Yeah, time for to Joe as Ricardo Land, ready from the fans POV. I mean, given your extensive voice that you lent, what was your experience doing your first, I guess the best way to put it, mainstream a role? Like how what was your experience with that?
Like the first time I actually went into a booth and recorded something.
Yeah.
That was for a little known anime called Aika R16, and it was really, really exciting because I was actually one of the main characters in that, and I got to go in and, you know, do what I'd been wanting to do, and of course I got the DVD after and watched it and all that fun stuff. So I think I'm more nervous now in some ways going into record, because when you first start, people expect you to be new and make mistakes, and you know, they don't really have as high of expectations. But now, you know, I'm expected to go in and get the job done fast, so sometimes that can be more stressful, if anything.
As a gamer, or quote-unquote gamer girl, I know we're all trying to get away from that term. I know people get pissed off. What are your thoughts on how females are portrayed in video games?
By the video gaming communities, or in the games themselves?
In the, well, both actually.
Okay, in the communities, I think it's definitely getting better because, one, there are more women going into competitive gaming scenes, and two, people are just becoming more and more aware of, you know, current issues and what is or isn't acceptable. It used to be a little bit hard back when I was a competitive Smash player, because a lot of times, you know, there'd be like 5 women and like 100 guys, and a lot of times they would say things like, oh, we were just playing for attention and we didn't really like the game, and it didn't matter, you know, unless you could prove that you were really, really good, then people would say those things about you, and it's kind of hard. But I think now there's a lot more openness, which is nice. And in terms of characters, I think it really depends on the game. There are some games where the female characters are just kind of treated like accessories and whatnot, but there are also games where you have really strong, powerful female characters who lead the story, and I think that's really cool too.
Good. Okay, earlier you mentioned that when you got started in voice acting, a friend told you about websites where people, you know, do voice dubbing for fun. Do you know, can you mention some of those websites are for our viewers who might be watching, because a lot of them might be interested and get going into voice dubbing as well, you know, especially fans of anime and video gaming, and they're probably wondering, how can I get into that? So I believe the websites would be like a great way to start. Of course, as you mentioned, you eventually will have to get some kind of formal training for it. But what are those websites that our fans could start with?
The one that I started on was called Voice Acting Alliance. It's still going to this day. I later founded one called Voice Acting Club, and they're just voiceactingalliance.com and voiceactingclub.com. And I know the site that came up in the past few years called Behind the Voice Actors now has like you can do amateur voice acting on there as well, like audition for things. And most of these roles in online projects are not paid, but it's a really good way to practice. And because I had done this stuff online for so long, I had a lot of practice doing different voices, learning to take direction, sending out auditions, all this kind of stuff that helped me when I did become a pro.
Now, have the conventions been treating you? I can see you're in cosplay. I mean, have you just been enjoying going to the conventions and doing all this good stuff? I mean, it looks like you're doing like both like the normal attendee stuff as well as being a guest.
Well, I haven't done a whole lot of conventions yet, to be honest. Most of the conventions that I've been to were local conventions around where I live, because, you know, I can just drive there and it's easy to for them to have me do a panel or whatever. But this is one of the only times I've actually been out to the East Coast to be a convention guest, so it's really exciting. This was also the first time that I've actually had people like really come up to me and want me to sign stuff, because a lot of times at these small local cons, you know, maybe I get 2 people if I'm lucky.
Back to the, you know, like as far as like doing amateur, or rather, if you wanted, people were interested in doing amateur voice acting. I mean, for most people, at least from who have told me and all that, they you know, they kind of assume that it's very easy. Like, it almost sounds like there's a lot of involved in it, I'm assuming, as far as actually trying to get work. So like, what would be your personal advice to people who are at least interested in starting up, aside from just doing like amateur, like you said, behind the voice actor auditions and all that? Like, what other advice would you give people who at least are interested in it?
I would say, in addition to practicing by doing online stuff, definitely get acting training. I mean, there are voiceover specific workshops depending on where you live, but even just a theater class or any kind of acting class will be helpful, because the most important part of voice acting is acting, and pretty much any voice actor will tell you that same thing. Because you can have a great voice, you can know how to do a bunch of funny voices or cool sounding voices, but if you can't make a believable character, then it's not going to sound good. You know, we've all like played those old video games or watched old anime dubs where, you know, the delivery was just really funny and people make memes out of it or whatever because it was just didn't fit. So it's not all about having the voice or the types of voices you can do or the impressions you can do. It's more about what can you do to bring a character to life, to bring words off the page and make it sound believable, to make it people feel for this character when they're watching the show or playing the game.
So going off of your last statement of doing funny voices, are there any funny voices that you like to do on the side or in front of your friends and family?
Oh, of course. I get cast as a lot of high-pitched characters, and especially mean girls. And I really think mean girls are fun. That's like my favorite archetype to play. I don't think I'm a mean girl, but I think, you know, everyone must have something like inside where they're just like, I really want to play this kind of thing that I never do in real life. So I do a lot of, I don't know, like I played a really fun character from Danganronpa too, because she looks so like cute and innocent, but she just insults people all the time, and that was really fun.
Okay, so we know that you've played a number of voices for video games and anime. This is like a sort of a two-part question. Of all those voices you've portrayed, what are your most iconic voices? And you know, like when you go out to conventions or just out in general, do people like immediately recognize you? Oh, there's Kira Buckland. You know, do you see that your profile and your stock is rising as you're coming up in the voice acting world?
I usually don't get recognized or any of that, to be honest. I think in terms, you know, compared to some of the other voice actors who've been in the scene for a very long time and done really popular shows, I'm not really up there yet, but I mean, hopefully in the future, because I have some really exciting things coming out later this year that I can't talk about yet, but I think as far as iconic roles that, you know, when people do come up, what they tend to remember is Marie from Skullgirls is a big one, because she was the final boss of that game, and a lot of people have a very hard time fighting her, and it's to the point where people have sent pictures of, you know, like broken controllers or fight sticks because they're like, I hated fighting this boss so much. So it's always really fun to, you know, just like do a line in her voice and be like, oh, flashbacks. And Danganronpa was a pretty big thing as well because it has a really strong fan base, and I was actually a fan of Danganronpa before I ever got cast in the second game, so that was really nice.
Now, do you did they ever offer like roles for like you know, male characters to you? Because I know like that happens a lot in the West. They find like women to like do like younger kids or younger like boy or girl. Have you ever done stuff like that?
I've definitely played preteen boys before. It used to not be something that I was very good at, but it was definitely a skill that I tried to learn because, again, usually they have grown women playing young boys, especially in anime and things like that. So it was something, you know, I asked some other people who were really good at that and specialized in that, what is your advice? And I practiced, and, you know, again, I was not good when I first started, and I didn't think I'd ever really get cast for that type of role, but now I've done at least 3 or 4 young boy characters.
Helps to diversify too.
I mean, back to the beginning, as far as like, you know, your whole experience as a voice actress. Like, I mean, what was that one moment in your life growing up that you basically wanted to become a voice actress or become like at least involved in that community? Like, what was like the one point in your life that really kind of clicked in your head that you wanted to do it?
I think it was just like watching certain anime and realizing like I could do that. I could be one of the voice actors. How do I do it? And just kind of having this like passion to get into it, and then when I kind of realized like, oh, well, I can at least do it as a hobby sort of thing at first, then that was really cool because it, like, the internet made things like that accessible to people like me who didn't live in the right place, didn't have any training at the time, and just knew they wanted to voice act but didn't know where to start.
So as a gamer, what are you playing now? And to ask the most horrible question ever, what is your favorite video game of all time?
I just finished Professor Layton versus Ace Attorney because I really love all the Phoenix Wright games. So
Yes.
I finally finished that. Next, I'm going to start on Majora's Mask for 3DS.
Have you had a chance to play Fantasy Life?
No, I haven't.
You get addicted.
I like fighting games. Guilty Gear is probably my favorite fighting game franchise. I used to play competitive Smash Brothers and competitive Street Fighter, but kind of like fell out of the scene. I do play Smash 4 for fun from time to time, and competitive Pokemon as well.
Okay, earlier you mentioned voice actors who've been in the game for a long, long time, or even some who are famous today. Who are some of the voice actors that influenced you, or if not that, those that you consider your favorites that you like to hear when you play video games or watch anime?
There are a few that just instantly come to mind because you hear them in pretty much everything, and you're just like, oh, they're so good. I want to like be like that someday. I think Laura Bailey is definitely one of those. Michelle Ruff, Wendy Lee, Kari Wahlgren, just a lot of the people who have been working at this for a long time, and you know where I would like to be someday, or even some of my own friends who got started around the same time that I did, but maybe have a stronger career than I do at the moment. Just kind of like looking at what they do is inspiration to strive for me to do better.
Was there any role that you weren't really too thrilled with after you had like seen the finished product?
There's always some where either I don't think my performance was as good as it could have been, because a lot of times when you go in to record for something, you don't know even what it is necessarily. You might not even get a picture of the character, and it's pretty much up to the director and the clients, if they're there, to give you the context for the scene. And usually if you have a good director, they're very good about that. So even if you have no idea what's going on, then it'll sound like everyone is talking to each other in the game, and it'll sound like almost like they all recorded together in a way. But you know, there's always just, especially for a lot of online projects I did, because you don't really work live with the director for most of those, sometimes I would have something where my line sounded completely out of context from what all the other characters were saying or the situation they were in. And occasionally people would say, oh, like, you're a really bad voice actor. And I was like, well, I didn't have any context, and you know, I didn't know what was going on, and should have had me redo it. So it's, a lot of people, I feel like, to just blame the voice actors anytime they don't like a performance, but there's a lot of factors that go into it. And sometimes voice actors are miscast as well. Sometimes we're put in something that it's like, this is a character that I can try to do, but I'm not the best choice for it.
I mean, kind of pushing away from like the negative. I mean, based on your many roles, is there that one character like that you really, really want to be able to voice in the future at all?
Absolutely. I am super obsessed with the series called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I really, really like them. There's different parts, and in the 6th part, there is a protagonist named Jolene Cujo, and she is basically me if I were a lot cooler and tougher. And it's interesting because she has a Japanese voice because the game came out, like a fighting game for it, and she sounds like I do. I mean, normally I have to change my voice for all the roles that I do, but that's just one that's like I could just do. It's like me. So I don't know, I'm just so passionate about that series, and I would really love a chance to work on it someday if they ever animate that part and have it in English.
Yeah, because I mean, from what it sounds like, I mean, it kind of sounds like this character really kind of, you kind of see yourself in this character, right? I
do, and I think sometimes people just find that character that's like them, and you just like relate so much to it. So.
Okay. Are there problems that
certain games, for example, have a lot more male cast, so there's more parts for male actors. But on the other hand, I do a lot of JRPGs and things like that, like for example, like the Hyperdimension Neptunia games, where it's pretty much an all-female cast. So I think it kind of evens out. I mean, looking among all my different friends, I think even if some of us work more heavily in one genre than another, it kind of evens out, because for example, like JRPGs tend to have more parts for females, whereas something like a shooter or an action game generally has more male parts, especially if they need a bunch of soldiers and things like that. So I mean, I think it's about the same as far as the amount of people competing for roles as well. But the cool thing is, a lot of us become friends, so the competition is not like, it may be friendly rivalry, but if your friend gets a part, it's not like, oh, I hate you. It's like, well, cool, congratulations. Like, at least it went to somebody I know.
Yes.
Okay, so earlier this young lady mentioned about what video games you would like to play right now. What are some of your favorites? I would like to know from dubbing so many anime characters, what new animes that are you watching today, and what are your favorite animes of all time?
Well, my favorite of all time, which I've also been currently watching, is of course JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. My friends who are at the con, we all watch the new episode because it comes out every Friday, so we were watching that and getting super excited. I've been trying to watch the Love Live anime a bit because I'm super addicted to the mobile game. I have it on my phone and everything, and I've just like, I'm, what is it, level 80 something at this point, so I was like, oh, I'll kind of check out the show because the game got me interested in the characters. But aside from that, I haven't really been watching a whole lot. My best friend is really into Food Wars, so he has shown me a little bit of that, and I keep promising my friends I'm going to check out One Piece, so.
Okay.
Oh,
Yeah, one more in.
sorry. What other conventions do you see yourself doing in the near future? Will you be coming back out to the East Coast?
I hope so. It really just depends if people are willing to have me as a guest and whatnot. So usually what I tell people is a lot of cons work on suggestions from my experience, and that is how I was able to get out to this con, from a lot of people being like, hey, like, she's cool, you should bring her. So if there's any guest you want to see at any convention, the best thing you can do is probably reach out to their guest relations, which usually will have a form on the website or something, and say, hey, I'm interested in seeing this person. And a lot of times, if it's doable, they will see about making it happen if enough people ask. As far as conventions I'm doing later this year, I am doing Tokyo and Tulsa, which is in Oklahoma next month. I'm going to Anime Expo, but just as an attendee. I'm going to SabaCon in Las Vegas. I think that's all I have for this year, at least at the moment.
Alright, given the fact that, kind of like the last question, given the fact that you are a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fan, and I mean, I think earlier I heard that your favorite character is Dio Brando. If Dio Brando could cook you any dinner that you ever wanted, what meal do you think he would cook you?
I don't know if I would trust anything cooked by Dio, because you might be like, oh, it contains blood or something, you know? But, I mean, I don't know, I would love to, especially because Diego loves coffee, I would love to share an iced Mexican mocha with Diego.
So you said that you were a fan of the Phoenix Wright series. Have you had the chance to watch the movie?
No,
What did you think? No, you
I
didn't?
haven't. I've played all of the games and beaten all of the games, but I have not seen the movie, actually. I probably should. Maya was one of my first cosplays back in the day.
Yeah.
Okay, aside from the voice dubbing, you've also incorporated the cosplay into your overall work in your career. Where do you see yourself, say, maybe roughly 5 or 10 years, and do you see yourself expanding into other areas of the arts and entertainment, or just strictly doing voice-over acting for video games, films, and anime and such?
Well, I'd like to do voiceover for all types of media. I mean, I'd love to do like prelay animation, like Western animation, but that's really, really difficult to get into. So it's kind of something that you do other things, and then eventually maybe you'll get a break into that. As far as if I'll be cosplaying 5 years from now, I guess it depends how well I age, because we'll see. But I've been told I look really young, so I guess that's an advantage for that. And I like to do a lot of the characters I voice and stuff like that, because I've been cosplaying as long as I've been voice acting, so it's not as much of a passion for me as voice acting, of course, but it's something that I like to do as a hobby.
All right.